Dark Discoveries is a podcast that dives into the darker corners of history, mystery, and the downright bizarre. We discuss real events that may include graphic details, adult themes, and strong language. Not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
We're here to inform, entertain, and maybe make you laugh nervous in public, but never to glorify the criminals or make light of their victims. Our research is thorough, but hey, we're not perfect.
We don't claim to be historians, so if we get something slightly off, blame Jimbo. All opinions are our own, and sometimes even those are questionable.
All right, guys, welcome back to Dark Discoveries. I'm your host, Jimbo, and I'm joined today with one of my co-hosts,
Dustin.
Jackie, still playing Pirates of the Caribbean, I do believe. So, but tonight we are bringing you, man, you know, Dustin, we've covered a lot of weird stuff and a lot of sad stories and a lot of monsters, but this guy right here, he might take the case as being one of the worst of all times. And it's hard to talk about, but you know, if you don't tell the story, people may not understand just how horrible of a person he was.
Definitely like in the top 10. I can't say that we can get just one. All right, we're going to go steal the Dark Windows, like most evil people bracket. We're going to have to do that. So shout out Kevin stealing your idea, but the tournament of bastards is what we're going to have, and this guy would be on the list.
Oh, definitely. He might be a number one seed too.
Dude, there's only 4 number one seed spots, and it's like, you know, Hitler gets one. He's vying for a spot, this particular person, but there's just a lot.
Epstein's probably on the list.
There's a lot of shitbags that can take those number one seeds.
Right. So, of course, you may have seen by the title, we are going to be talking about the Gray Man, otherwise known as Albert Fish. So there are names in true crime that never fade, not because they're repeated often, but because once you learn them, they don't leave you. Albert Fish is certainly one of those names that we're getting ready to talk about. He wasn't a spree killer. He wasn't prolific in the way we measure numbers. He didn't dominate headlines in his lifetime the way later killers would. And yet, nearly a century after his execution, Albert Fish is still spoken about in hushed, unsettled tones. That's because Fish forces us to confront something deeply uncomfortable. The idea that extreme evil can exist quietly, patiently, and without spectacle. I even read somewhere where he was a father and grandfather.
A lot of these guys are monsters behind closed doors. Like, right. You wouldn't expect
the BTK killer.
They blend into society, and that's how they make it so long, is because they're a chameleon. They can adapt to whatever environment they need to survive.
So that a man can look frail, polite, even forgettable, and still commit acts so disturbing that the written record alone is enough to traumatize those who read it. Tonight's episode is not about shock. It's about understanding, about how a man like Albert Fish was formed, how he opened or operated for decades without being stopped, and how a single letter, which when we get to that point, we're going to put a disclaimer in here. It is very, very disturbing. I'm going to have Dustin read it here in a little bit.
Yeah. So inside baseball, I've already had to read this once.
Right. So for the listeners that may have just joined us,
the tens of you that listened to our cannibal episode,
the OG episode, Cannibalism, Jackie forgot to turn off the air condition, and we had this noise, and I tried everything. I even reached out to Justin Rimmel. Can we see about fixing this? He did the best he could, but at the end of the day, I was like, look, let's just scrap it. We'll go back to Cannibalism at some point, but we wanted to make the audio quality the best it was, and it just wasn't there. So for those of you that listened, Dustin has read this before. He didn't like reading it the first time. He's really upset he's got to read it again.
Yeah, I may boycott and not read it, make you guys do it on your own, because I'm not.
You're going to read it. But,
not overly happy with it.
But that single letter, it single-handedly pretty much cost him his freedom. So that's pretty amazing. So
All right, so Albert Fish is often reduced to a character, the boogeyman, the Brooklyn vampire, the werewolf of Wisteria, but those nicknames distract from the reality. The reality is far more disturbing. Fish wasn't driven by chaos or rage. He was driven by belief. Belief in punishment. Belief in suffering. Belief that what he was doing was not only justifiable, but necessary. And unlike many killers, Albert Fish documented himself. He explained himself. He left behind words that would haunt a family, investigators, jurors, historians for generations. And that letter he wrote to Grace Budd's mother, it isn't just a confession. It's one of the most chilling documents in American history, criminal history, any history. I'm really disappointed I drove an hour and a half to have this episode recorded, and I learned that I had to read that. So I was all excited. I'm like, man, we're going to bust out some really good content.
And I was like, not so fast, my friend. I just got done doing some research.
He's like, I remember how much you liked reading this the first time, so you're going to read it again.
But this guy was a scumbag. Let's just face it. So,
Absolutely one of the worst kinds, the worst kind.
Anything against a child is just the worst.
I hope that his time in prison, I really do hope that they got their money's worth out of him. Beat the shit out of him on a daily basis.
Well, he did get executed, Dustin, but we'll talk.
He did, but how long was he in prison before?
Not really sure. But here we go.
My stance real fast. I'm going to get on my soapbox.
Dustin, here's your soapbox. Stand on it.
So when it involves a child, they should beat you to an inch of your life. Not nurse you back to health, but let you naturally heal a little bit to where you're not going to die. And then they do it again. And they do it till they're tired to almost killing you.
I think every family member should have a shot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There should definitely, if you bring the firing squad, all the family who wants to be a part can get a gun.
And guess what? We're not going to have any fake rounds. They all get a real live bullet.
Yeah, because in case they all miss, you still got the marksman that's going to make sure he gets killed, but let everybody else shoot him too. Just repeatedly almost kill him and let him survive just to do it again so he can live that torture over and over and over again.
Let me ask you a question, Dustin. Since you pulled off on this soapbox, a little rabbit trail, do you think, I got to be careful how I word this, do you think somebody like Albert Fish can be rehabilitated?
No, absolutely not.
But according to today's standards.
Well, here's the thing is you don't, there's some mental health stuff that I just don't think can be cured or fixed because you're just going to conform to the bare minimum that you need to conform to get out. You're not, it's going to be in the back of your head. There's no fixing it. I do not see it.
So let's see if we can find where some of this trauma finally started during his childhood. So Albert Hamilton Fish. How would you like to have the last name Fish too? I bet he got picked on a lot, but
he had a name, Albert Hamilton. Like you have a last name, middle name.
Fish.
That's one of those John Fitzgerald. It's got a last name, middle name that could be distinction.
Do you know that? That reminds me, Justin. You know what you call a fish with no eyes? Fish.
I was going to say a fish stick, but.
But he was born May 19th, 1870 in Washington, D.C. into circumstances that were already unusual. His father, Randall Fish, was 75 years old at the time of Albert's birth. Dustin, can you imagine being a brand new father at the ripe age of 75?
And it's 1870. The average lifespan was what? Late 60s, early 70s. So if anything, you just robbed your child of a parent for
he really robbed him
through their formative time.
So his mother, Ellen, was significantly younger, but emotionally fragile. So did she rob the cradle? Sounds like it. Do you have a phone call going on in the middle of this, Dustin?
These stupid smart glasses, everything is muted, but you can't mute the glasses.
So how about you take your glasses off there, buddy?
I can't because I can't see.
You didn't bring your backup, huh?
I do, but we'd have to stop recording. I'm sorry for that.
Here, let me pause this for you.
No, I'll be able to just mute it on my thing, but it just everything's muted. It should
Dustin
not
has
have,
to buy the latest and greatest technology.
All right, let me go ahead and disconnect them because
Please. I knew you would do something stupid. I warned you.
it was muted. Everything was muted.
Then why is it going off?
I don't know. Everything's muted.
Had to have the latest, greatest technology.
Okay,
But here
now-
we are.
now
Let's
they're
go
turned
back.
off.
Let's go back to this Albert Fish. So 75 years old. His wife is obviously younger. But when Albert was just 5 years old, his father died. So he lived to be 80.
Yeah, like I said,
79, 80.
you lost it. You know that's just so immature that you would get somebody pregnant. I don't know how old his mom was. So immature that you would get somebody pregnant at that age.
So you got to think about it. The death didn't just remove a parent. It basically collapsed the family stability entirely. I mean, how are you going to provide for your family now? Because back then, women pretty much didn't work. They, was a homebody.
Yep.
But Ellen Fish, she was unable to care for her son. So guess what? She placed him in an orphanage. And this decision would shape everything that followed.
Oh, now you want me to talk. The orphanage Albert Fish was sent to was notorious for brutality. Corporal punishment was routine. Children were beaten, humiliated, and isolated for minor infractions. Fish later described these punishments not as traumatic, but as pleasurable. This is a critical point. Fish did not simply endure abuse, he internalized it. Pain became associated with comfort, punishment became associated with attention. Authority became something to appease and emulate. When his mother eventually moved him from the orphanage, that conditioning remained with him.
So I wonder how long she waited, put him in the orphanage, and then brought him back.
It may have been just till she get on her feet. You know, I mean, it's one of those. I know,
But I mean, the damage was probably already done.
I know my grandpa was born in 1930, was a little bit older than my grandma, but it was tough times. Her dad died when she was like 3. So I think before, about the time that she remarried, this is a time too where she had 11 brothers and sisters. So they were kind of adopted out to different people to help raise them, to financially be able to take on that responsibility because she couldn't. So it's one of those, I think you do it just as long as enough to get yourself stable. And then when you do, most of the kids probably come back. Maybe if you stay, adopted out because you just can't keep up with it. And that may be one of those things. She maybe got stable, either found a job or found somebody to help,
But you got to remember, he's just a small kid. And a kid that age, his brain is like a sponge. So he's just all the.
If you don't know what love is.
Exactly.
If you don't know what love is, you assume that
That's
what your
normal.
experience, this is going to be normal because, and I don't want to get down this rabbit hole, but when you get to a lot of things in grooming and things, they're letting you know that like, oh no, this is normal. And in the human mind, he's like, well, this is probably what everybody goes through because you don't know any different and you don't know anybody that really knows any different.
Right. So as Fish grew older, he developed religious obsessions that intensified over time. He interpreted scripture literally and selectively, fixating on themes of punishment, sacrifice, and purification through suffering. He believed that his pain could cleanse sin, and he believed children were inherently sinful. These beliefs would later serve as justification for acts he knew society condemned, but that he believed God required.
So you're back to that's all you know. So you just assume. So Albert Fish married and had 6 children. For years, he maintained the outward appearance a struggling but functional working class father. He worked odd jobs, moved frequently. He kind of blended in and appeared unremarkable, just like an average person. But behind closed doors, his behavior came increasingly alarming. Fish practiced extreme self-harm. He whipped himself. He pierced his own flesh. Later, x-rays would reveal more than 12 needles.
2 dozen needles.
Sorry, 24 needles. you got me at needles. And then I see like dozen, and I'm like, I just don't want to think about it, that were embedded in his pelvic region and inserted over years.
So Dustin, have you ever thought, hey, let me jab a needle into my pelvis and let it stay there?
I had to get allergy shots as a child.
So did I.
If I ever became diabetic, I'll die because I'm not putting a needle in my arm or my thigh or my stomach. I don't like needles. I just don't. It's not
well, if Jackie ever has a peanut allergy, you're going to have to stab her with the EpiPen.
Well, that's a little bit better because it's like it's
close, so you can really see it.
It's a prick. You're not trying to take a 2-inch needle, stick it in the right place, and go in and feel it go all the way through.
You can give yourself like Ozempic shots or anything.
If it's like a shot where you can like a blood sugar where you're just pricking and it's spring loaded, I could do.
But what if it's like one of the ones where you have to fill the vial and jab yourself?
Yeah, not my. Somebody'd have to do it for me, and I'd have to look away. I just, like I said, that's why I gave up regular pop for zero sugar Dr. Pepper, because
diabetes.
I don't want to get that, because if I can't control it with a pill, I don't want to take it with a needle. It's just, that's not my forte. This was not just psychosis. It was a ritual. So he willingly, he wasn't, being in mind control or nothing. He willingly did this.
Let's think about this. He's a married man. He has 6 kids. Was he sticking these things in there before all of his children were born? And his wife was like, hey, what's this?
Well, if it's a needle, it's going to be a stainless, it's like a surgical steel.
Yeah,
so
but he's sticking it inside where it's stuck in there. Like it's not coming back.
Yeah. And that's the thing is
you'll find out it causes complications when they went to kill him.
Yeah.
When he went to get executed.
And I'm sure and that's the thing is, being like a surgical steel, even back then, it's not going to kind of dissolve in you. I don't think it's going to stay in there. Yeah. So everyone you've ever put in, I'm sure it's going to be there. It's not going to deteriorate and go away.
Fish also began targeting children outside of his family. He focused on impoverished neighborhoods where disappearances were less likely to draw sustained attention. Kind of like you see a lot of serial killers. Who do they target? They target prostitutes, because nobody's going to care if a prostitute
You're looking
disappears.
for the people who aren't going to be missed.
Right.
And fun thing you're talking about that. Hint, I may be in my
prostitute.
No. In my long list of topics I have to go through, I'm going to probably cover one here in the near future that is kind of the same thing. Somebody that blends in to commit horrific crimes. Just so you know.
Well, thanks for that. Helpful. But he posed as a helpful grandfather figure. If you ever see a picture of him, he looks like a grandfather, like just a normal guy. Sometimes he offered money.
Gotta lure him in,
you guys want to get paid.
That's the 1900s candy,
right. And you got to remember,
was money.
I mean, this might be. Let's see. He was executed in 1936, so this could be right around the Great Depression.
Yeah,
that's insane. So sometimes he offered food or even work, but he relied on their trust. So you got somebody that's, hey, trust me. Look, I'm a good friend. And he relied on invisibility. So over decades, Fish admitted to abducting, torturing, and killing children. He claimed many victims. Investigators could only confirm a small number, though. The rest were lost to time, poverty, and silence. In 1928, Albert Fish responded to a newspaper advertisement placed by the Budd family in New York City. They were seeking employment for their teenage son. Fish arrived well-dressed, soft-spoken, and elderly. He presented himself as a successful farmer. He was polite, non-threatening. During that visit, though, he noticed a 10-year-old Grace Budd.
Fish would return to the Budd home multiple times. He was building trust. Eventually, he convinced the Grace parents that he would take out Grace for her birthday.
No, he wanted to take her to a birthday party for his niece.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm getting excited. I'm not getting excited.
You get nervous because you have to read the letters.
I don't want to. I know what's coming, and I don't really want to get into it. The parents would agree, and this was the last time that Grace Budd was seen alive. No immediate alarm was raised, Fish had appeared respectable. He had been welcomed, and then he vanished. For 6 years, the Budd family lived without answers.
I wonder if he used his real name. You know what I mean? Like, if he just disappeared, you would think, well, where'd this guy go?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of
You
those.
would have a name, say, hey, she was last seen with this guy.
It wasn't an alias because, but you got to remember, you're only going to be wanted in that town, that area that you're in. So if you go a state away, you're scot-free because there's no, there's no photographic evidence. There's no DNA, things like that to link you back to it. In November 1934, Grace Budd's mother would receive a letter in the mail. It was written in uneven handwriting on cheap stationery and mailed in an old worn envelope. At first glance, it appeared rambling, mostly incoherent. Fish wrote about his travels, about his upbringing, about unrelated details that seemed meaningless. Then the purpose of the letter became clear. It was a confession.
So, it's kind of funny that it said it was in like an old letter. I wonder if he was one of them guys that would open his letters and peel the postage off, and save it and reuse them. You know what I mean? Like frugal.
Depending on what time. I mean, it's probably a time that you're going to save some money because you're coming into or out of a Great Depression.
So the letter described how Fish had lured Grace away, how she was killed, and what claimed happened afterward. The language was disturbingly calm, almost instructional. And we're going to read this letter here in a little bit, just a little bit longer, but let's finish talking about this. But what makes the letter uniquely horrifying is not just what it says, but how he says it. Fish doesn't apologize for anything. He doesn't express any regret. He framed his actions as logical, necessary, and justified. He insisted he was sane. He emphasized that he understood what he was doing. He wanted the reader, Grace's mother, to know that this was intentional. That alone separates the letter from most criminal confessions.
Yeah, you have to make a point to let her know that you did all this on purpose. Like, what kind of piece of trash human being are you?
The worst, I'm telling you.
The letter also revealed Fish's psychological need to explain himself. This was not bragging in a traditional sense. It was a declaration, a man asserting moral certainty. For Grace's mother, the letter was devastating. It replaced uncertainty with unbearable knowledge. It forced her to confront not just the loss, but the mindset of the man responsible for it. The emotional violence of the act cannot be overstated.
Can you imagine being the one getting the mail out of your mailbox and opening up and be like, because they're still searching for her. There's no,
time's passed, but you're clinging on to hope that she's still alive, and you're going about a normal day. You're still every day thinking about this. I'm sure every minute of the day.
If I could just see that guy again, where did he go?
What is she doing? Is she okay? It's all going to go, to where you're trying to keep hope, but you are realizing that it's probably going to be grim. And then you open up this unsuspecting letter.
Right. So,
and you get it.
Speaking of that, Dustin is about to read this letter that Albert Fish sent to his victim's mother, Grace Budd's mother. So, warning, this is extremely hard for Dustin to read. It's absolutely terrible what Fish did, but we also want to make sure that everyone understands just exactly how horrible this man was. He was a monster. So if you're easily upset, if you get disturbed over stuff that happens to children, especially
this is about the time to fast forward a minute or two. If you're with young kids, if you're in public, if you have somebody in your vehicle or listening, it's a little sick and twisted.
It is very sick and twisted. So for the next couple minutes, if you want to fast forward, we completely understand.
We still get credit for the downloads and everything as long as you listen to the first minute.
But we just want to make sure that everybody, this is Dark Discoveries. So when you talk about somebody like this, he's very dark, but we want to make sure, we want to give you the information if you want to do more research on it later. So, but I'm going to have Dustin read the letter right now.
Because I know some of you guys are like me. The psychological of what drives somebody to do it, not necessarily their crimes, is what's interesting. Adolf Hitler, what drives him psychologically to do what he did.
And he wrote Mein Kampf.
It is one of the most fascinating people to research because for me, you're trying to figure out where things went wrong, why things went wrong, what makes you do what you do. And I don't even really care about that. Like, this one's like, you're responsible for 60 million Jews dying and countless German soldiers and innocent people and Americans, all the casualties and stuff like this is like, because it's directed to a child. It's just absolutely horrific. So,
Right.
And like you said, it's not always written the greatest. So it's going to be one of those things.
It's not always the best reader either. So this should be fun.
Like I said, it can't be no worse than the one, the Salty Jackie letter. What was that
for Jack
one?
the Ripper?
Yeah, because some of those were bad.
Yeah. So this is the time Dustin's getting ready to start reading this. So if you want to fast forward for a couple
we gave you
minutes.
as much time as we could to get ready. So, my dear Miss Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on a steamer, the Tacoma Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and two others went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was a famine in China. Meat of any kind was $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all the children under 12 were sold to butchers to be cut up and sold as food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under 14 was not safe in the streets. You could go into any shop and ask for a steak, chops, stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out, and what you want was cut from it. The boy or girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body, was sold as veal cutlet, and it brought the highest prices. I would be trying to figure out how to take over your government. If it's that bad, you're eating children.
But you know what the thing is? According to history, there wasn't even a famine in China right now, so he's lying about this.
No,
if I remember from our previous...
That's good to know because I forgot since then. And if I'm sure it happened in some shady places, but it's just... John said there so long he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to New York, he stole two boys, 1, 7, 1, 11, took one to his home, stripped him naked, tied them in a closet, then burned everything they had. Several times a day and night, he spanked them, tortured them, to make their meat good and tender. Like, why are we reading it? Like,
I mean,
I'm not even to the bad part yet.
No. I mean, it's bad.
It's bad. Like, no, this is horrible. But this isn't even the worst.
No.
First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass, and of course, the most meat on it. So I'd have been in trouble if I was alive then, because they're like, look at that little fat kid. Like, he's going to yield some pounds of food. I'd have been dead. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except the head, the bones, the guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass, boiled, broiled, fried, and stewed. The little boy was next. It went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, rear right side. He told me so often how good human flesh was, I made up my mind to taste it. On Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street. Brought you pot cheese, strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat on my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. And this is, is he making it up? Like, is he just giving an elaborate story that he was just a sick murderer? Or do you think he actually did it?
Well, no, I think he's sending this to her mother because he's like, look, it was me. I'm the one that did this to your daughter. Because do you remember that time I came over to your house and we had strawberries and cheese and she sat on my lap?
Yep, he's saying, this is the evidence, remember?
Right.
But
do you remember me?
Do you think that, I'm not doubting that he was a cannibal, but it's one of those, it's like, I hope he's embellishing. I don't know why you'd want to embellish and why you would try to flex in a letter.
I think they believe he killed a lot more, but I think there's 11 that he actually confessed to. It's disturbing, dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to I don't know why somebody would want to admit to something they didn't do on top of it. So
right,
it's just, is it H.H. Holmes to where you say you killed this many people, you only killed 27, which is still enough.
An absurd amount, yeah.
On the pretense of talking her to a party, you said that she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester. I had already picked it out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs, stripped off all my clothes. I knew if I did not, I would get blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called her. Then I hid in the closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run downstairs. I grabbed her, and she said she would tell her mama. I first stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death and then cut her into small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was, roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I'm going to paraphrase this. I did not have relations with her, though I could have, had I wished. She died a virgin.
So, and can you imagine? How do you think the mom felt knowing that she was the one that said, sure, you can go. This guy's a nice guy. You can go to his niece's birthday party with, the guilt
Hell
that she
no.
must have,
as a parent of a daughter, there are things that can happen out of your control that can never be undone. Once that happens, it is with you forever.
Right.
So as a parent, as a dad, I am way stricter than her mom. Like, if I don't know, I don't really feel comfortable with this. And you have to explain. And then as they get older, you're like, there's reasons that you couldn't go do things.
That's my kids. My kids used to be like, but why? Everybody else. I said, well, you're not everybody.
You're not, they're not your parent.
And I said, look, you may not like me right now. I said, but one day you'll understand.
And when they get older, you're like, this is why, because, one thing like this will change you forever.
Change everything forever.
It'll change the way the mom sees it, the dad sees it, you see it. People are like, I can't take a chance. So my job is to protect you. And you're getting a mother who thought she was doing a good deed.
Well, they said he had been to their house several times. Like
he had built trust.
He had originally planned on killing Todd. I think that's the name of her brother. He was 18 looking for work and all that. He had planned to kill him, but then he saw Grace and changed his mind. Like, oh, well.
It's an easier target.
Easier, right.
Yeah. You take an 18-year-old kid, and I don't know how old he is at this point. He's in his 40s because it's 1934.
Well, no, he was executed at 36, so he's...
Okay, I was saying it was like 34. I have to go back. But he's probably mid to late 30s.
This letter came 6 years after he had committed, or 6 or 7 years after the fact of the murder.
And
crazy.
An 18-year-old kid would be a challenge.
How messed up do you have to be to say, number one, do that to the kid, but number one, write this and then wait 6 years knowing they're having hope and everybody's
and I don't think
it's
guilt. I don't think he's felt guilty. I think that he maybe went victimless for a while.
Nah, you didn't catch me is what he's doing.
I think he went maybe victimless for a while, or like you said, he wanted to brag, like, hey, just so you know, just so I can remind you, as if you needed reminding. And it's
I
just
did this.
and the fact that like
And you let me do this is what he's saying.
yeah, and he's trying to justify it by putting the blame on the mother.
That's what I'm thinking. I think he's it's a different way of psychological manipulation.
Oh yeah.
He's like, oh, look, you did this to your daughter. I mean, I may have killed her, but you had a hand in it.
And it makes you wonder what happened
Scumbag.
in it. I don't think you're born to be this. I think you're a product of your environment.
What goes back? What happened in that orphanage when
exactly.
he was 5?
Yeah. So something bad happened in that orphanage, bad enough that his mother came and got him.
Well, they said they used to beat him, and he thought it was great. You know?
I'm sure there's more than just beating.
Right.
And it's just, I don't get, and that the poor mother is reading this and you're hearing.
Can you imagine, Dustin, you being the father, let's say something ever happened to your girl, and you get a letter like this that says, Dear Mr. Anderson, and you read something like this.
I'm going to take up fingerprints and I'm going to take up a way to track it and I'm going to find somebody.
Right.
And the fact that we are questioning his credibility on telling the truth in the beginning about the having a famine and then no known famine that we know about, not saying it didn't happen in certain regions of China and places, but where you're eating humans, his credibility could kind of be in question. So you don't know how much is truth at the end, and if there's more to it or not. And it's just sickening.
Do you know how they knew it was him? I think on the letter, he made a little fish symbol.
Yeah.
Like his calling card. I was like, whatever. But that was the letter. We're going to move on because we dwell on this too much. I'll get madder. Dustin will blow a top, and it just won't be good for anybody. So, ironically, though, the letter that traumatized the Budd family also ended Albert Fish's freedom. A distinct symbol on the envelope allowed police to trace it to a specific boarding house. From there, investigators identified Fish. When police arrested him in December 1934, he did not resist. He spoke freely.
During interrogation, Fish was calm and cooperative. He admitted in killing Grace Budd. He spoke about his beliefs. He explained his actions as obedience to divine command. He understood right from wrong. He simply believed he was right.
That's crazy. But so we're going to fast forward to his trial, his execution, and aftermath of what happened. So at his trial, Fish's defense argued insanity. I mean, if anybody was ever insane, this might be one that had definitely some credibility to it, I would believe. But the prosecution countered that Fish knew his actions were illegal and concealed them deliberately, which I see that point too. So you can't claim criminally insane when you deliberately did this and then held on 6 years later and sent this note, right? So the jury agrees with the prosecution. Albert Fish was convicted and sentenced to death.
On January 16th, 1936, Albert Fish was executed in the electric chair. Good riddance. A witness reported complications during the execution.
You know what it stemmed from?
Later attributed to the needles in his body.
That is hilarious.
Even in death.
I hope he suffered for a long time.
His pathology was present. So I hope when they put all that voltage to his body, hope it just grounded out on those needles and just fried him even more.
Right. So I got a little other things here that I guess when they found over 30 needles in his groin, he was also at this point eating his own excrement, and he was also burning himself with hot iron pokers. So I mean, he was just, I guess pain was his thing, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, but his last words were, quote, "I don't even know why I'm here." So you can tell his mental state's just really jacked up. But his last statement, so his final statement before his execution, would pale in comparison to his note to Grace Budd's mother. His own lawyer, James Dempsey, says, quote, "I will never show it to anyone. It was the most filthy string of obscenities I have ever seen." Now, we just read the note, and it was really bad.
Yeah.
So for your own lawyer to say this was worse than that note, I tried looking it up. I tried to find it. You can't find it.
I wonder, like, if you're a public defender, and I'm sure his lawyer was a public defender, because who's going to, like, take a side? What happens if every public defender says, I don't want to represent him?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what happens?
Like, I'm sure a public defender can refuse to.
Or is that why they're public defenders? Because they take anybody?
I don't know. You think a public defender could still be like, no, this guy's guilty. I'm not putting my credibility on the line. I wouldn't. I'd have let him represent himself, and he'd still would have ended up in the electric chair.
Right. So Albert Fish's case permanently altered how investigators view offender self-documentation. His letter is now studied in criminology courses as an example of ideological justification, sadistic rationalization, and controlled confession. It is not just evidence, it is psychology on paper.
And for the Budd family, the letter was not closure. It was a wound that's never going to heal. It never healed. You know, they're long gone. But that wound was just ripped back open and even bigger. And for history, it serves as a reminder. The most dangerous offenders are not always the loudest, the youngest, or the most visible. Sometimes they write letters.
Keep journals, diaries.
At some point, you know, you're doing this by yourself. Either you're stuck in your own head and you're driving yourself insane. The thought of the crimes drove you insane, but you're just dumb enough to put out the evidence that they need to convict you.
If he wouldn't have sent that letter, they probably would have never caught him.
Yeah.
At least for this.
Well, did he maybe come back and have some clarity and maybe regret? I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
You know, it wasn't like I'm admitting because I have any guilt. It's admitting because I want you to know that I'm still here. I'm still doing it. And that cost him everything. Thank God. Because how many more people would have been a victim if he wouldn't have
Not
had to
people,
go brag?
Children.
Yeah. It's for some odd, crazy reason through all this, and I don't understand the thinking, Albert Fish believed he was chosen. Chosen for what? I have no freaking idea.
Thought he had a higher calling.
He definitely was chosen to take a seat right by the heater in hell.
Definitely.
That's what he chose.
So, but the world proved him wrong, but not before unimaginable damage had already been done. So, Dustin, as we're closing up this episode, give me your final thoughts on Albert Fish.
I'm a little disappointed you didn't go deeper.
Well, I mean, we can always go deeper, but
I don't want to go deeper on this guy. Like he's not one that really interests me. Like it's not
fun. I don't say that. It's hard to go deep because I could have went deeper with some of the other stuff.
You could have, like with Ted Bundy, different serial killers. There's some intrigue because you want to try to figure out the mind of why he was doing it. He had victims and certain and procedures and breadcrumbs that the police were able to get and chase and try to solve the crime, because it's not so much about what he did. It was the eluding police and how long it took to solve the crime and how cockiness and overconfidence sometimes is what brings you down. And this just, it doesn't.
Well, I think you got to remember, what's one thing on our podcast we strive to do? We try to help the missing children.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what sets him apart from Ted Bundy, all the other serial killers. It's against children.
Yeah.
And if I would have dove deeper, it takes you somewhere mentally that you're not prepared to go. And if I went deeper, I don't know how long it would have took to come back from that, because don't get me wrong, this guy is one of the worst of the worst. I personally believe, because if he would been a serial killer, let's say like Israel Keys, he killed how many people? Like at least 27. They think it could be 87. You know what I mean? fine. That's people.
Yeah.
These are children. These kids didn't even have a chance to grow up.
No, and who knows what they could have done.
Exactly. They could have been president, could have cured cancer. They could have been your next co-host on Dark Discoveries.
Yeah.
Anything. And I think the problem is the reason that we feel the way we do is because it was against children. And we're both dads in this room. And we feel for the buds, the mother, when she opened that letter. I mean, it made me feel some sort of emotion. You were getting worked up.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
Yeah, there's a, like I said, there's a special spot in hell for people like this.
Yeah.
And I've got somebody that we're going to dive into in the future.
Might have a seat next to him.
One Wayne Williams, if anybody knows that name. I don't know. I'm going to dive down a rabbit hole because I don't know if he's responsible for everything he was convicted for. I think some of it could just be wanting to close the books, but I'm pretty sure he was still a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I just got to, dive in. We know what everybody else has talked about with the Atlanta child murders. I'm going to try to, find some, look at some different things because it's just, I think it was 27 was the total, like I think one was an adult, which makes me wonder if that was maybe an accomplice and you get rid of your accomplice. But that many, children that come up missing in one city and you have somebody, we're going to just mini rabbit hole. You have these African-American kids that are getting murdered in Atlanta in the late 1970s, early 80s. Has to be somebody who can sneak in and out and go unnoticed. A white guy's not going to do that. Just like this guy blended in because he
looked like a grandfather.
He looked like a grandpa. He looked like he belonged where he was supposed to be. He put on a front. He acted. He could hide the monster. But that monster can always stay hidden. It's going to come out. And that's what I think really got him was that monster flared up. Maybe he didn't have the means or the opportunity to get a victim. So what does he do? There ain't nothing to really keep, I don't think, because a lot of serial killers keep their, trinkets from things to relive the kill. He probably didn't have that because there's no body to go to because you ate it all.
And I kind of
allegedly,
wonder if there was, because they never did find traces of skeleton or anything.
Yeah, so
they didn't find anything.
You can't go back. So what do? You terrorize the people that you hurt.
So let's think about this. When he's that letter was 1934. He was born in 1870. So
1870. Okay, yeah.
He was born in 1870, so that's 30. So he's 60 years old,
Yeah.
58, 60 years old.
My math's not good. I was thinking it was a little bit later than 1870 for some reason.
Yeah, but that's when he was born. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to talk about, but we did want to make sure people were aware and get his name out there. So if you ever see anything about him, just remember what kind of a bad guy he was. And it was hard to cover, honestly.
Yeah, and it's one of those, now when you're looking through, you may be like, yeah, this just really isn't something for my psyche I want to watch or listen to.
And as we're recording this, it is, January the 13th.
Yeah, we're 3 days away
3 days away from the 90th anniversary of his execution.
And 90 isn't really that long ago. Like when you look at, how far it is, could have been your grandparents.
Or your great-grandparents, yeah. That's
And how
crazy.
old you are.
Right. So hopefully you like this episode. When I say I don't mean like, but I mean, hopefully it was informational for you. If you'd like to follow us, we are Dark Discoveries Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. Dustin, where can they email us?
darkdiscoveriespot@gmail.com. Tell Jimbo not to cover this crap anymore.
Or tell Dustin he has to read more letters.
I'll read letters, but not those letters. Give me some listener letters. We can maybe read some listener letters or some comments or something. We'll read something, but we're not going to read.
And Dustin, if somebody wants to get a nice Dark Discoveries t-shirt,
you can find us on our link tree that should be posted to our Instagram and our Facebook page. And you can go on there, buy yourself a cool t-shirt, some stickers, mouse pads, desk pads, notebooks. I think I got to go back and see. I haven't touched it in months. So
So hopefully we'll be Jackie will be back soon, and we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program. Just remember, go check the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Find somebody in your area. Hopefully we'll be doing another Forget Me Not soon.
I feel bad because there is a recent missing child out of Indiana, and I don't have the info up in the name.
There's one that just was missing in Fishers.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I can tell you what it is. I can tell you her name, but I don't have like the case number and everything.
It's one of those that time is of the essence on these. So the faster, hopefully by the time this comes out, she's been found safe. But it's one of those, the faster that you can get the information out, the more critical it is. Because it's just a couple days ago, within the first week of January.
Well, there's a couple of them. Yeah, so Haley Busby was last seen January 5th, 2026. She's 17 years old. She was last seen around 10 p.m. on January 5th, 2026 in the Enclave at Vermilion neighborhood in Fishers, Indiana. She was wearing a white blouse, gray jeans, and a black puffer jacket. If you have any information, you can reach out to the Fishers, Indiana police at 317-773-1282. So let's try to find Haley and get her home. There's also another one that is missing. Her name is Nevaeh P. Schmidt. Her birth date is 11/23/2007. She's 18. She's a female. She's white. Her eyes are green and blue. Her hair, it's half pink, half blue, or naturally brown. She's 5'1", 275 pounds. She was last seen wearing black and blue checkered PJ pants, a pink shirt with flowers, and a black with a black female on it, and purple lavender Crocs. Her identifying characteristics: she wears glasses. They are a tortoiseshell design. Colors are dark brown and light brown. She has two small smiling face tattoos on her left hand, which are, the one with the crooked face and then a smiling face. She was last seen Sunday, January 4th, 2024. But if you have any information about her, you can contact the Westfield Police Department, Detective Bao at 317-804-3292, or Stephanie at 317-640-6001. So that's just a couple of missing kids you can keep your eye out for. Yeah. But with that being said, I think this episode's about done. So just remember, the deeper you dive.
Wrong podcast. The darker you get.
It gets not you get. We really got to get Dustin to stop getting new technology he does have no business having.